There are some problems here. Sorry, big time.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
Turks, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys on a lovely birthday for Anna Kasparian.
Oh, come on.
All right, and we've got a hell of a show for you guys. Is Mitch McConnell brain dead? And does anyone in Washington care?
He's been.
Yeah, I mean, would it really make any difference? That's actually a thing we're going to discuss on the show tonight.
No, they love brain dead people. We will get to that later.
And we'll tell you why they love them.
Yeah.
Some shocking facts about the views of Jewish Americans on tonight's show. I can't wait to share that with you guys. War's back on, it's on again, off again. This is one of those on again moments. We're bombing Iran as we speak. We'll explain all that. Graham Platner is, of course, in the news and reactions, some surprising reactions, some non-surprising reactions, and oh yeah, Israel's torturing an innocent doctor to death. But we should send them more money. Okay, so having said that, let's start with Platner.
There's not a police report, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. And there's not a legal case playing out here for due process to see itself through. So my question to you, given the very high standards Politico has before they write something like this and publish it, what aspects of this story brought it to the level of publishable?
We looked at messages that she had sent to others in the months after this happened through social media.
But you were able to see those DMs?
She tried to recover those DMs. We did not. We were not able to review those DMs, but she described them to us.
What in the world is happening? Mika Brzezinski grilling the Politico reporter that reported the allegation against Graham Platner, a shocking source of skepticism from there. She actually did a brilliant job. We'll show you more about that in a second. And she was tougher on the Politico reporting and the establishment reporting than a lot of progressive activists have been.
100%.
So is Graham Platner going to drop out? We've certainly got details for you on that. If he does, who might be the next person online, and was he targeted? So a lot to discuss here. Anna's got the facts.
So before we give you the details, I just want to say Graham Platner's candidacy was treated very differently from the typical centrist / establishment types in the Democratic Party. As you just saw, Mika Brzezinski seems very skeptical of the latest reporting, which we're going to get back to in just a second. James Carville, who is, part and parcel of the Democratic establishment, defended Graham Platner prior to the latest allegations. So the establishment wasn't just flat out rejecting him. So I want you to keep that in mind as I give you the details of what's going on here. Now, the latest allegations have to do with a 41-year-old Maine resident who used to date Graham Platner on again, off again for about 2 years. Her name is Jenny Rasicot, and she claims that in late 2021, he allegedly entered her home when the door was unlocked. He was deeply intoxicated by her telling and forced himself on her while she told him to stop repeatedly. So her allegation, let's be very clear, is that Graham Platner entered her home when he wasn't invited and forcibly raped her. She says to Politico, quote, "I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me. I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice." Now, she previously described reckless and unsettling behavior by Platner in a New York Times article, but she didn't go into the details. She refused to elaborate, and she said she didn't want to do it, specifically because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim, okay? But she decided to do it a week before an incredibly important electoral deadline in this Senate race in Maine. Now, Platner flat out denies the allegations, but it clearly looks like he is going to eventually drop out of this race because every person who endorsed him has now turned on him. Further, this is a statement from Graham Platner's campaign. They say these allegations are very serious and Graham vigorously denies them. They are also coached and coordinated by out-of-state establishment operatives. For a year, opponents of this campaign have thrown everything they can at Graham, calling him a Nazi, a war criminal, and a communist. None of it has been true, and this is no different. It is not a coincidence, they say, that this story comes a week before the ballot deadline, just as the previous false allegations came a week before the primary. Graham began his campaign to fight for a Maine where everyone is treated with dignity and where Mainers are put first. And no amount of desperate smears will stop this movement from seeing that vision through. Now, I want to just quickly get into what type of evidence Politico relied on in order to publish this story, because these are serious allegations. So Recep told Politico that she had exchanged text messages with Platner that night, telling him not to come over before he did come over, right? Now, she said that she wasn't in the mood for company. Later that evening, she said that she realized when she heard a sound at the stairs or on the stairs that he had let himself in. She left the door unlocked, which allowed for him to let himself in. Platner came up the stairs, she said, to where she was on a couch. He got on top of her and kept grabbing her, she said, while she repeatedly told him to stop and that she wasn't interested. She said she smelled alcohol in his breath and believed he was almost blackout drunk because Platner ignored her protests and continued to grab her after knocking over an antique sewing kit, spilling small needles everywhere. Now, she was apparently unable to produce the text messages or the direct messages that she allegedly sent to Platner, which Mika Brzezinski drilled the Politico reporter on. So let's take a quick look at that.
What do you have that actually connects this literally? Graham Platner to raping this victim?
Yeah, she reached out to him the day after via Instagram, and essentially, told him that she didn't want to hear from him again. She told him that morning as well, and we looked at messages that she had sent to others in the months after this happened through social media.
But you were able to see those DMs?
She tried to recover those DMs. We did not. We were not able to review those DMs, but she described them to us. We also, long before he was before he was a political candidate, we saw her essentially explain to others that he was, quote, in her words, consensually careless, end quote.
Right, but were you able to see the interactions between Graham Platner and this alleged victim? Did you actually physically see them? Did she produce them for you?
She attempted to uncover them. But was unable to.
Willie?
Okay, so let me give you some more detail into the Politico reporting, and then I'll go to you, Cenk. So they write that Recep had said that she waited several weeks until she got her period to ensure she wasn't pregnant, then sent Platner a private message on Instagram saying that the encounter was not consensual and she did not want to hear from him ever again. She said she later deleted all texts and social media correspondence with Platner as she tried to move on from the assault, and said she has not been able to recover Instagram messages she sent him about the incident. Now, what is the evidence then? Well, the strongest evidence that Politico was able to provide to justify their reporting, where they're essentially accusing him of rape, is the following. So there was an exchange between Recep and an acquaintance on Facebook, and I'm gonna read you the relevant portions of their exchange. So the acquaintance says, "What's his deal? Should I not fix up my friend, assuming he's single?" Recep responds with, "He can be charming and funny, and he's a decently intelligent person. He's not all bad, but I ended up in a bad situation with him, and I will just very politely call him consensually careless at times." Okay, the acquaintance says, She responds, "When drunk plus PTSD." acquaintance says, I knew about the PTSD. And then she says, he also lies. And then the acquaintance says, forces himself on people. I guess that's what she's trying to say. And then Rasicot later says, one thing that grossed me out after him and I had dated was that I saw his profile on OkCupid, and that site asks a lot of questions. And one of the questions was, if your partner told you they had over 100 sexual partners, what would your response be? And his response was, that's not that many. So that's super grossed me out, thinking he's probably slept with a ton of people. Doesn't listen to you when drunk. Okay, that is the most significant evidence. And personally, as a woman, if someone raped me, I wouldn't call them consensually challenged, but maybe that's just the way she communicates, I don't know. Further, there was a therapist that she spoke to recently about this alleged rape from all the way back in 2021. So she didn't tell her therapist about it at the time. She didn't file a police report. She apparently told an ex-boyfriend who she started dating in 2022 about the incident, although she was very vague about it. The man who was granted anonymity out of concern for his personal privacy told Politico that she had told him bits and pieces about a bad experience with Platner before confiding the full details of what happened in 2023. That's the other piece of evidence that maybe you can point to. But I don't know. Everyone has withdrawn their endorsement of Platner, and I think the allegations are suspicious. I'm just gonna say it. I think Platner's tattoo and his explanation of how he handled the tattoo after realizing it was a Nazi tattoo was way more problematic than these claims. That's my thought.
Okay, there are two different issues here. Was he targeted? What does it mean to be targeted? And then did he actually do this specific allegation? So you've got to separate those two things out, and they're both relevant. So first of all, the media never talks about this thing that everyone in politics knows about, because it would make them kind of complicit in some of the games that are played. It's called oppo research, opposition research. So there are different groups that do opposition research, and then they hand it over to the media. So the groups that are doing it clearly have an agenda, and this is now bipartisan. It's not like Democrats don't do opposition research. Progressives do it, but super weak, in my opinion. Almost never do they actually put any oomph behind it. And besides which, when establishment figures give oppo research to the mainstream media, they love it. The media loves it and immediately prints it, and that's relevant to this case. If progressives give it to them, they don't print it, and they look it over 1 billion times and say it didn't meet their standards. That's why Mika Brzezinski's questions there were really interesting. She's like, this met your standards? Your evidentiary standards? So let's start with, now when you move over, we'll come back to who might have targeted him. But was he targeted? Oh, there's no question. I mean, you'd have to be brain dead. You'd have to be Mitch McConnell not to see that he was targeted. It was one thing after another. His tattoos, his Reddit posts, his every girlfriend is contacted by the New York Times. Why? And then one woman comes out who's basically does oppo research for the Republicans, and she says he did something for me.
And who defended Brett Kavanaugh when Christine Blasey Ford came forward with, I think, far more credible allegations against Kavanaugh, because there were several people she spoke to at the time of the alleged rape attempt by Kavanaugh.
So this is the media's like 7th attempt or something to end Graham Platner's campaign. If you think these are just, oh, well, he's so problematic, they're just organically popping up. That's not true at all. That is definitively not correct. There are groups who try to take out candidates. It is relatively normal, although it's never talked about in the press, because remember, the press doesn't do their own job. These groups do. And then the question is, who does the press choose to target? Who do they choose to write the stories about? Who do they choose to not write the stories about? But we're gonna come back to the essence of this case in a second. Anna.
I just have so many thoughts about this, so bear with me as I go through them all, okay? I loathe horse race politics specifically because of this reason, because it places us in this unbearable position of having to adjudicate something that should have been adjudicated in a court of law if this actually took place. If someone entered my home and forcibly raped me, I would not allow the individual who forcibly raped me, that's violent, right? to remain in my home and sleep it off. But that is what she did. She alleges that he was so drunk that she didn't want to tell him to leave because he might harm someone on the road. He just forcibly raped you, right? Call the cops, or more importantly, get the hell out of the house. But she did neither one of those things. Neither one of those things.
Yeah, so look, again, I hate the situation we're in where we have to try to adjudicate this with not enough evidence. Could it be that she's telling the truth? Of course it could be. Now, guys, if it's true, then it's a huge problem, right? But we don't know for sure that it's true. But in a situation like this, even if you say you're not sure that it's true, that's it, people come and take your head off. Because they say once we made an allegation, it's over. You're not allowed to object to the allegation. But wait a minute, the thing that caught my attention here, and again, Mika Brzezinski also saying this doesn't look right at all, this is not enough to publish a piece, gives you a sense of we're not making this up, guys, and we're not doing it because we're biased. Look at the fact pattern here. So the thing that caught my eye, Anna, was on the therapist. Because
yes, the therapist didn't want to talk to the press, by the way.
Yeah, the Politico kept saying, well, she says she talked to the therapist, and the therapist does not acknowledge it, but says that they do have a relationship. No, wait.
No. Let's be totally accurate, okay?
Yeah.
The therapist acknowledged that she spoke to her recently about what allegedly happened, but did not want to issue a statement to Politico.
Yeah, so the therapist is not confirming it.
Right.
I mean, there's a very easy way to confirm it. Say, hey, I don't want to talk about it, but yes, I confirm that she said that, right? And maybe give some context, give a statement, and then get. Look, the therapist is in a tough spot too. It doesn't mean that she thinks is skeptical. We have no idea. But that's the thing. In order to print a story, you're supposed to have two excellent sources, right? So here, the only thing that's a little bit persuasive is those text messages that Anna read to you guys. And so then you guys make up your own mind on whether you think calling someone consensually careless is the same as saying he raped me. So, and by the way, in all of these stories, it's barely ever mentioned that they were in a relationship at the time.
She spent more time elaborating how disgusted she was that he might have slept with a lot of women than she did about the alleged rape. When she's talking to an acquaintance who's asking her about Graham Platner because she's thinking about fixing a friend up with him.
Yeah, so every person that they go to, the current boyfriend, the therapist, the other folks, people that normally in a story like this go, yes, at the time she told me this, and this is a text message we have, or etc. None of that is here other than the two texts that Anna read you. One of them is barely relevant. The other one is the one that has the careless comment, right? So if you think that's definitive, I'm 100% positive, no problem. Because it's we all make a different choice on how we view it. So look, for me, this is not about whether Graham Platner did it or not. At this point, that question is almost irrelevant because
it's over. It's over for him. Yeah.
Everybody pulled their endorsement. It's considered toxic. You can't support him, blah, blah, blah. So we're not trying to fight that battle, guys. We're trying to tell you how politics works and what to be on the lookout for. And how does this process work? Because were there all these different opposition research groups targeting Susan Collins and calling all of her ex-boyfriends and looking through her text messages, asking about therapists? None, zero. Is there any about establishment candidates, Democrat or Republican? Almost never. It has to fall right into your lap, right? And again, it's output research usually by other Democrats, right? But do they get targeted? No, the establishment never gets targeted, never gets. But when you have an outsider, Bernie Sanders, Graham Platner, but a lot of right-wing outsiders too, they rev up the machine. Let's go, destroy, destroy, destroy. What's interesting about something that Anna mentioned is that in this case, not all the establishment Democrats are united.
No, they're not.
Sonny Hosten also defended Graham Platner today. Today on The View.
That's so shocking. Yeah, so I mean, look, the reason why I bring up the establishment figures who are defending him is because this isn't a typical progressive candidate that has the establishment digging in to see what kind of opera research they can find to destroy him. I'm sure there are some, But I didn't feel the same treatment toward Platner that I noticed with other progressive candidates in earlier races or even during this election cycle. So look, I think that after he won the primary, all he needed to do was see who was outraged by his win. It wasn't members of the Democratic establishment. It tended to be people who didn't like his stance on foreign policy. I'll just leave it at that. So I don't know who dug up the Oppo research. All I know is there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to this issue, when we literally have a sitting president who played a massive role in the cover-up of the Epstein files, who has been found civilly liable for sexual abuse in the E. Jean Carroll's case, who has been credibly accused of all sorts of things, including sexual assault and rape by dozens of women. I mean, so are we going to allow this kind of stuff or not? Because it seems like when it comes to certain political figures, it's totally okay, even if in a court of law, civilly, they are found liable of sexual abuse. Even though they are found liable, okay, of engaging in a cover-up of one of the biggest sex trafficking scandals involving minors that we know of in American history. So I don't know, this whole thing is trash. And look, I hate being put in this position because I've been skeptical of Platner since the tattoo thing. And you know that because we had it out on the show on that issue. How do you realize you have a Nazi tattoo and wait until you're running for a congressional or for a Senate seat to remove it? I just don't get it. I don't understand that. So Platner wasn't my favorite. I'm not going out of my way to defend him because he's someone that I desperately want to win. The reason why I'm doing this right now is because I'm looking at the facts we have in front of us right now, and I'm sorry. I just don't think the evidence rises to the occasion of Politico publishing this as if he's already proven guilty as a rapist.
And Jay Tapper was ready with a segment on this as soon as the story broke. So that means that they had some advance notice that it was gonna break. And you go to Jake Tapper, put it out there. Okay, so guys, look, we definitely don't know exactly who did it. So now we have to look at the puzzle and the context clues, etc. So I said right after it happened, what'll happen is now establishment media will find a new target and they'll start to attack him over and over and over and over again. And it'll probably be someone who's opposed to Israel and corporate PACs and the establishment overall. And guess who's up today? Actually, there's two people. One is Abdul El-Sayed. They have now tried a great number of attacks against him. So before, Hassan Piker was on a campaign with him. That's it, that's disqualified. That didn't work, that actually increases numbers. Today they're going with, this Israel stuff isn't working. He once was in favor of defund the police. Okay, so that's a new line of attack against Graham Platner. So far, 0 lines of attack against Haley Stevens, his opponent. She is an enormous supporter of Israel, has taken an enormous amount of money from the AIPAC. No investigations, no attacks, no targeting, nothing, right? Never in the news in a negative way. Abdul, one after another. Tonight, another one. Oliver Larkin, a candidate we featured here just last week. He's running against Jared Moskowitz down in Florida, an establishment Democrat, very pro-Israel, okay? Oliver Larkin is not. He wants to cut funding to Israel. Now, Hassan Piker talked to Oliver Larkin, and Oliver Larkin is not, it's a problem, attack, attack, attack. So who do I think it is? Well, normally I would say it's probably someone related to the establishment Democrats like Schumer, but the establishment Democrats are split. So that leaves the one PAC that is the largest contributor to members of Congress in the last election cycle, AIPAC, the Israeli lobby. If you think they wanted Graham Platner in this Senate, causing trouble for them, saying that we should pull funding of Israel, and you think that they might spend $18 million against Jamal Bowman and at least $16 million against Tom Massey, but they wouldn't do Oppo research.
Never.
No, that's a line too far. Everybody does Oppo research. Yeah. You think AIPAC doesn't do it? So my guess is, based on these context clues, but it's just a guess. I don't know, but I do know it was definitely targeting. So is that it was people that are part of the Israeli lobby that marked him for destruction, and that is why mainstream media is like, uncorroborated. The last New York Times piece, we talked to every single girlfriend, didn't get a single thing other than a GOP operative. We'll print it. We don't care about two sources. Our rules go out the window when we're ordered to attack. And now political. Oh, our normal rules, as Mika just showed you, out the window, because we've been ordered to attack. So we have to attack and destroy Graham Platner. So now, and by the way, their last piece of that trick is twofold. After they destroy their target, they then say, who supported him earlier? Yeah, you're all guilty. Now you smear Bernie Sanders and you smear Ro Khanna, you smear our revolution, you smear.
Please, for anyone who's engaging in that, choke on it. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Choke on it all night long. We gotta take a break, we'll be right back.
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Hey Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that. But you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang, of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech. So, wait, should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh, yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally say?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no. You know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The two buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that. Here you go, phone, yeah.
What the f? Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoe. It's in my shoes.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said,
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. First of all, if Graham Platner does drop out, I should say this is important. You should back Troy Jackson. That's what a lot of progressive populists are backing. Troy Jackson in Maine.
But do your homework. Don't just back someone because progressive figures are saying it's a good candidate. Do your research and back someone who speaks to your values.
Yeah, I hear you. These days, Roe's been kind of on fire, and he's backing Troy. So we'll see. All right, let's go to the next story. Longtime Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell has been in the hospital for 3 weeks now, and some are saying he's brain dead already. But his wife went to China. That was weird. And then Scott Jennings says, "Oh, I called him. I had a great conversation with him." That was super weird. So Anna, what in the world's going on here?
Well, Cenk, you know, part of the holy matrimony is to abandon your husband as he's possibly brain dead in the hospital. But let me actually lay out the details for our audience, and then we have a wonderful guest to share her reporting on this story with us. So as we all know, Mitch McConnell is 84 years old. He should have maybe ended his political career a little earlier in life, but refused to do so. Now, he was apparently admitted into the hospital on June 14th. At the time, his office told the press that he was admitted to the hospital and was receiving excellent care with no further details. It was unclear why he was hospitalized in the first place, but 2 weeks later, independent journalist Desiree Townsend shared an EMS recording from June 14th when he was hospitalized. This is the same day he went to the hospital. Now, the call requested advance life support to be sent to his home because he was found unconscious, and then later it turned out that he suffered from cardiac arrest. Now, it's a little bit difficult to make out what you hear in the audio recording, but this is the EMS recording that was later released by the journalist Townsend. Take a listen.
Medical local paramedic agent 3, medic 3, ALS response unconscious, 27 in Charlie. Medical local paramedic agent 3, medic 3, ALS response unconscious, 2 CCS in Charlie, close of 2nd Street on Charlie 11, 836.
Medic 3, communications. East Farming supervisor, CPR in progress.
Okay.
EMS 2 response for cardiac arrest. 217 C3, no CCS in Charlie. EMS 2 response for cardiac arrest. 217 C3, no CCS in Charlie. Close of 2nd Street on Charlie 11, 843.
Medic 3, EMS 2 coming.
Okay, I think it's critical for you to hear that evidence because of how his office is trying to downplay what's going on here. But for now, McConnell's team is alleging that his health is improving. On July 2nd, a spokesperson for McConnell said the following: the senator continues to improve and is working closely with his staff on Kentucky and Senate matters while the Senate is out of session. But that's unlikely, if you ask me, and if you ask friend of the show Ken Klippenstein, who posted the following on X: only a tiny fraction, fewer than 5% of octogenarians survive an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest like the one McConnell suffered. I'll speculate further. Even if he's part of that lucky few, he'll have brain damage, as the vast majority of survivors do. Again, just want to repeat, he's 84 years old. Then reports, I should say, came out that McConnell was officially brain dead. It started with Laura Loomer, who's untrustworthy. I wouldn't take her word for it. However, she posted a high-level source close to the White House tells me Mitch McConnell officially brain dead. He's not coming back. What made this credible was the quote tweet by Desiree Townsend, the independent reporter that I've been referring to, who said, "I have heard the same thing from my sources for days. At this point, I am at the hospital for when they eventually decide to cut him off life support and move his body. His Capitol Police detail is still here as of 3:39 p.m. Eastern time." Now, we want to figure out what's going on here, and luckily joining us is the independent journalist I've been referring to throughout this story, Desiree Townsend. Desiree, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today.
So let me just start off by asking you, what do you think is happening here? Do you think that the speculation by Ken Klippenstein is correct? Do you believe that Mitch McConnell is in fact brain dead?
I personally believe that that is the case, or he is still on life support. I find the timing of these statements that came out saying I spoke with Mitch McConnell today incredibly odd. The reason being is if you listen back to that audio, they were giving him CPR. And then for literally 2 weeks, we get nothing from the office until Laura Loomer posts that clip. And so I had heard the same thing from multiple sources. Look, what's happened here is there's a lack of information coming out of his office and coming out of his family. His family's not disclosing much. So we had heard that these sources had told us that President Trump had sent somebody there to figure out what was going on. And that is, I guess, essentially where we were getting this information from. So the timing today of these two people coming forward, I believe it was Brasso and Jennings came forward and said, I had both 20-minute conversations with Senator McConnell, I find very odd, because also we had staffers, some sources that appeared to be within the staff. I got this from another news organization that said that Elaine Chao, his wife, is back as of 2 days ago. So she gets back 2 days ago, and now these statements are coming out. I mean, look, it's very possible he's defied all the odds, and he's defied that less than 5% survival rate. If he's capable of having a phone conversation for 20 minutes, he needs to resign right now before July 13th when the Senate returns, so we can conduct in Kentucky a special election and get somebody more capable of serving in that office.
So let's dive in a little bit more. So Scott Jennings says he talked to him for 20 minutes. I think Scott Jennings is lying, period. Maybe he talked to Mitch McConnell for 20 minutes, but Mitch McConnell did not talk back, right? But let's game out what happens if McConnell is brain dead or he's not, right? Because first of all, to your point about CPR, once CPR has been done to revive someone after a heart attack, their chances of being brain dead is significantly higher, right? So it feels like under both circumstances, we need clarity for sure, right? Which one is it? And his wife is back, so she has an obligation to tell us, the citizens, which one it is. But you're saying that if he is conscious, then he should resign. I view it the other way. If he's not conscious, then we definitely need to go to a special election because Kentucky doesn't have a senator.
He's 84 years old. He should resign. Okay, sorry to interrupt and interject, but come on.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, it's not just about age. So yes, tell us about the situation about what would happen under those two scenarios.
The problem is, unlike the 25th Amendment for a president who's become incapacitated, there's really no way of doing that for a member of Congress. They either have to be conscious and then they resign, or they die. Those are the two options. And so if he's legitimately conscious right now, he needs to immediately resign before he loses consciousness again. Otherwise, it's a waiting game to see if he's going to recover enough to make it back to the Senate on July 13th. You have to understand, the Senate is only in session from July, and then they quickly head into August recess. We have all of fiscal year 2027's appropriation bills to get done, in which Senator McConnell sits on the appropriations committee. His vote is needed to get these out of committee and then vote on these bills. If he's incapable of coming back on July 13th, then he needs to resign. Otherwise, if he refuses to resign, we have to wait for him to pass. There's nothing to stop him from coming to the Senate. I don't think he's going to show, but this puts us in a really tough bind in July before August recess because we have all these fiscal year appropriations to get done.
So with him absent, what happens with his vote during these appropriations debates, right? Like when Senate is voting on certain bills, with him absent, what happens? Do they just miss out on one Republican vote?
It's a not vote. Correct. It's a lost vote.
This is unbelievable and unacceptable. And by the way, this is a bipartisan issue. I mean, as you probably know, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein died while in office when she shouldn't have run for her last term. And she should have stepped down and allowed for someone who was capable of actually serving the people of California to do that. But it seems like right now Congress is just kabuki theater. Like it's not really there to serve the people at all. And you could literally have someone who's brain dead continue to serve in the Senate. It's out of control.
Yeah, I just want to take that and talk about an important reason why they might not go forward in trying to get McConnell out. In the case of Feinstein, the Democrats had Nancy Pelosi's daughter wheeling her around in a wheelchair. So Pelosi's daughter was effectively the senator from California because at that point, Dianne Feinstein was not at all cognizant of what was happening. So in this case, who do we think is the senator from Kentucky? Is it Elaine Chao now? Or is it some staffer? Is it a consultant? Is it a donor? Okay, and then B, why wouldn't the Republicans want an extra vote? They desperately need an extra vote. Oh, right, if there was a special election, there's another guy from Kentucky that the Republicans really, really don't want to be the next senator, which is Tom Massey. And is that relevant here?
I think there's two different issues here. I think there are a lot of Republicans that still they admire maybe some of what Massey has done. I know that President Trump, on the other hand, has a different view of Massey. However, I think at this point, Republicans and Democrats should be really concerned because, again, the kind of running joke at Capitol Hill is Elaine Chao is running Senator McConnell's office. And we've seen staffers whisper to him in hearings and on the Senate floor on what to do on protocol. And so they could easily just be whispering in his ear to vote yes or no on a certain thing. And that's why, so here's kind of what alerted me to something being amiss here. So McConnell's very fierce Republican conservative. The moment he blocked the SAVE Act, President Trump's, sort of baby, his bill, I knew something was wrong because the old Mitch McConnell would have never blocked the SAVE Act. And so that's when I started digging in and noticing that there's a lot of, that he has these handlers. When I have seen him, at least on June 11th, vote on the Senate floor, he's not even in the camera. You can't see him actually vote, meaning they probably rolled him in. It's very likely somebody could have whispered in his ear, put your thumb up, and that's how things are sort of being conducted. That's not democracy. You can't have someone else running someone's office and continue, even if the vote is helpful to Republicans. We can't allow this to go on.
So there's a second component here because, look, again, with both McConnell and Feinstein, my view and the view of a lot of our viewers is that they're puppets anyway, right, for all their donors. And so they're irrelevant tools for the donors and servants, et cetera. So who cares? The consultant's gonna make the decision, or the donor is, it's not the senator anyway, right? But in this case, there's a different component, which is Elaine Chao. So now we've got, Benjamin Netanyahu and the head of Mossad going into the Situation Room and telling Trump what to do before the Iran war. Now we have Elaine Chao going to talk to the Chinese vice president while her husband is either brain dead or, apparently, according to Scott Jennings, miraculously recovering from being brain dead, but she's not there. She's talking to the vice president of China. That is incredibly strange.
This is what you need to understand, and I think this is where the voting public gets this piece wrong. You think that whoever the handlers are just having them vote one way or the other. What you don't realize is that these members of Congress get access to classified briefings. Senator McConnell was granted access to the classified Iran briefing, the classified budget on fiscal year 2027 for the Department of Defense, Department of War. They're given classified information. Now, if you have handlers voting for them, and now handlers who have access to classified information are running off to China with that is a big problem.
I totally agree. This is outrageous. And what is your sense, just last question for me, what is your sense of how the Republican base is reacting to this, if they're reacting at all?
The Republican base is reacting, and I think they're all furious right now because this is not right. And I think a lot of it's because it's connected to Elaine Chao in China. Now, if it was just probably anyone else and a Dianne Feinstein sort of situation, maybe they would have looked the other way. But this is a bigger issue to have somebody who is closely tied to the Chinese government taking meetings with the vice president just 3 days after her husband had cardiac arrest, and she didn't bother flying back. So she had this pre-planned trip. She was seen at a university in Shanghai on June 12th. June 14th, she should have jumped on a plane. She has private jets. She should have jumped on a plane, come back to DC to be by her husband's side. Instead, she took a meeting with the vice president of China. Now that takes me back to it. This isn't about votes. This is about largely that classified information. So there is one other piece that could disrupt our economy. Again, Mitch McConnell's lack of a vote will shut down the U.S. government in October, because his vote is so important to move forward fiscal year 2027 appropriations. I had Senator Kennedy on record saying basically that. So what what this could do if he refuses to resign is it causes chaos with our appropriations and shuts the government down, leading us to potentially, have lapse in the Department of Homeland Security again, Department of Defense, TSA, you name it. It opens up our country for national security threats because we're not paying the people responsible for defending this country, and then it opens us up again to losing in the GDP because we have all of these contractors that are not getting paid and government operations shut down.
Wow, I mean, I can't believe she flew to China 2 days before her husband was admitted into the hospital, had cardiac arrest, and didn't fly back immediately. But Desiree, I really appreciate you taking the time to explain your reporting with us, and I hope you'll come back when there are updates, because this story is important, not just for Republican voters, but for this country. If we're supposed to live in a democracy, we should have senators who are able to represent us, and that's not what's happening right now for the people in Kentucky. Thank you again, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Yes, have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, just remember two different issues. One is he's been falling down at the job literally since 2023. He just fall down and get concussion.
Or
he's
just
been freezing, etc. So they've known for 3 years straight that he's totally incapacitated, and they didn't care because it's the same results either way. But now, that is very strange to have an in-person visit with the Chinese vice president while McConnell is dying.
Agreed.
That is not normal. All right, we'll be right back. All right, back on TYT during the social break here. Let's go to YouTube super chat first. Rose Orozco says, "Happy birthday, Anna Kasparian.
Thank you.
We love you." And she gave $40.40. I'm not sure Anna is thrilled about that, but anyway, Eclectic writes in, "Happy birthday, Anna. Thank you for having the courage and dedication and salt, of course, to stand up to the haters, the gaslighters, and the genocide apologists day after day. Thank you so much for fighting the good fight. Lots of love."
Eclectic, you have stood by us, much like Al Belzo, Michael Napin. You guys are longtime viewers, longtime supporters through the thick and thin, and I love you guys. Thank you for the support. And Rose, you know I love you, girl. You know I love you.
Okay, Eclectic gave $77.86, or July 7th, born in 86.
I like that.
Okay, all right, Woman AF, thank you for the contribution. I presume for the same thing, you're awesome. Mehmet Tekolu says, "Happy birthday, Anna Kasparian."
Look at this show off.
Yeah, well, all the way from Turkey. Now on to other things. Fat Voltron says, "Boomer holding on to power after death. Impressive." Okay, it's true. That's how powerful he is. Miss Richie Blackmore, well, looky here. Scott Jennings has been a member of the Republican Party of Kentucky's executive committee. He absolutely has an interest in upholding this charade and locking out Massey. Of course he does. Nabil, oh no, okay. That's okay. All right, back on TYT, Jank, Anna, and Rhino Ren. Rhino Ren, thanks for signing up through tyt.com/join. That helps us a lot, and we do need it. Just one quick funny super chat. Nabil wrote in, "Hi, 6-0. How are you? Hope you like Belgium waffle." So
what?
So at the end of the World Cup segment from yesterday, I said, "I hope we beat Belgium 6-0. What an absurd claim, right? Like, this is no chance of happening. Anyways, I was angry, and instead Belgium won 4-1. And you know what I say now? Those damn Belgians, no. They played a great game. We were outmatched. God bless.
And by the way, the win is even sweeter because they had to, do this match against the US team with its star player involved, and they crushed, so congratulations.
Yeah, they beat us full squad 4-1. No,
full squad, duh.
Yeah, whatever, no, it doesn't matter. That's not even real. Okay, so anyways, great job, Belgium. So that's that. All right, now, let me help you guys out. So, when's the last time you actually checked your Medicare plan? I know that if you're older, or for me, for my parents, it's way too infrequent. I did it last year because of chapter. So the costs creep up, the plans change every year. They're counting on you not noticing. So you gotta check in with Chapter, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're independent, honest, they advocate for you and not the insurance companies. That's the super important part, guys. So a member of our audience in California was skeptical when he first dialed Chapter, but in just one call, they found him coverage that he's been missing for months. He's not alone. People who switch to Chapter save more than $1,000 a year on average. If you're already on the best plan, they just tell you, so they don't BS you on that. Free help in under 20 minutes. Call 805-201-2275. Worst case, you'll be certain that you have the best coverage. Best case, you stop overpaying and get the coverage you need at the lowest possible price. So that's 805-201-2275. All right. So get that and you'll save a lot of money. All right, now let's go on to the next story. So huge news out of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran hit 3 ships coming through. America has retaliated a significant number of strikes that just happened. So Anna's got more details.
Yes, in fact, news broke right before we went on air, indicating that the US is now carrying out some pretty heavy strikes against Iran in retaliation for Iran's strikes, alleged strikes on 3 different vessels that were traveling through the Strait of Hormuz, albeit through a path that was not greenlit by the Iranians, who, whether you like it or not, have control of the Strait of Hormuz. Those are the spoils of war, the spoils of the war that we Americans and the Israelis lost. I know it's a hard thing to accept, but that's just the fact of the matter, and there's no military option to change that. So the bombing that's taking place right now is useless. But let me give you the details. I'll start with how we got to the point we're at right now. So Iran allegedly struck 3 vessels that were traveling through an unapproved route through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this morning, US officials confirmed that Iran had fired on 3 commercial vessels sailing in Oman's territorial waters near the strait. So I want to show you this map and kind of give you a sense of what I'm talking about when I'm discussing the different routes that these vessels are transiting through. So if you look at this graph, you'll see what I'm talking about. So one route is established by Iran, which has control of the Strait of Hormuz. And they have said for the 60 days this MOU is in place, these vessels can travel through our approved route without a toll, without any charge. That this is the agreement. Now, then there were 2. Then the second one was established by Oman and the UN's International Maritime Organization, or IMO. And 3, the pre-war route that some vessels have been attempting to travel through despite serious security risks. And those serious security risks are usually carried out by the Iranians, who have made clear that they control the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran intends to eventually charge, they're not calling it a toll, they might call it an environmental fee or whatever for vessels traveling through the strait. But again, just to repeat myself, after agreeing to the MOU, both the United States and Iran agreed that there would be a 60-day period in which Iran would waive all charges for vessels traveling through the strait. But I also want to be clear about one other thing. The Oman route that I was talking about earlier was apparently established for the Arab Gulf states and the US, which refused to ever pay any toll for any vessel traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. We'll see how that's gonna play out, but Iran obviously doesn't like that, doesn't accept that. And so on Sunday, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that its Navy deployed patrol boats to block the Omani route. But the US is adding to this confusion and to the conflict because the Joint Maritime Information Center, a multinational body overseen by the United States Navy, told shippers on Monday that the route around Oman has been expanded and remains available for all traffic. It appears that wasn't the case given the attacks that were carried out by Iran. Now, according to the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center, one of the vessels caught fire. Iranian state television said that one of the vessels that was hit was a Qatari liquefied gas tanker. And then it also came under attack after ignoring warnings, according to Iran, and did not take those warnings seriously. And then following the strike, the Qatari Foreign Ministry demanded that the IRGC immediately cease all securities threats in regard to international maritime navigation. Additionally, 2 other tankers were also hit, including one that was struck by a drone. Both of those ships sustained some damage, but no one was injured. At least one of the vessels continued on their way. And then per CNN, the attack occurred hours before the US president, Donald Trump, of course, showed up to Ankara, Turkey for the NATO summit. And NATO leaders are in fact expected to discuss what they're gonna do about this whole Hormuz Strait situation. Good luck with that. Now, Trump also warned Iran that it would need to make a deal or we're going to finish the job. Iran responded by saying no more negotiations will take place if these threats continue. And that's where they were at prior to the US retaliating against Iran for striking these 3 vessels, allegedly. Iran hasn't taken responsibility for all 3. It seems like they have taken responsibility for the Qatari vessel. But nonetheless, the US is under the impression that Iran carried out these strikes, so they're retaliating by carrying out some of the heaviest strikes we've seen the US carry out since the beginning of the war. They have struck Qeshm Island, Bandar Abbas as well, which has a port. So we'll see where this all goes, but it's not looking good, Cenk.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of mysteries here. Iran said some strange things about the bombings, like, hey, no one's allowed to go through that route, but we're not sure what happened. Something along those lines. I was like, that's weird. And I don't understand why the Oman route exists and then Iran bombs them, ships going through there every once in a while. So I literally don't get that. Do you understand it?
I do not get the impression that Iran has greenlit that, because remember, the Omani path was created specifically to help the Gulf states and the United States skirt a possible, fee or toll that might be charged by Iran in the future.
I got you, but Iran, to my knowledge, allowed a lot of ships through that route. Okay.
Well, they do. This is what Iran does. So Iran just bears it, right? When it comes to all sorts of different elements of this war, they have said multiple times that any peace negotiation, and more importantly, the terms of the MOU indicates that Israel needs to stop attacking Lebanon. But Israel has continued attacking Lebanon, just bombing entire villages, slaughtering a bunch of innocent people. Iran hasn't responded to that. So I feel like it gets to a point where Iran just can't take it anymore and they want to prove that they mean what they say. And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah, it's possible. And plus, in the context of today, Anna gave you that other important data point, which was they're saying, no more negotiations until this is sorted out. That's not what a side with low leverage says. That's what a side with high leverage says, right? And they've been doing this funeral procession for the late Grand Ayatollah.
It's still taking place today.
Yes, and so they're about to go to the most holy sites now in the Shia world. And he was the leader of the Shia religious movement. So they're very hyped up from that funeral. So it's possible that the hardliners in Iran are gaining the upper hand. That's not impossible. But it does show you one thing that's clear, which is that Iran is not worried about further conflict. So Trump keeps saying they unilaterally surrendered and we won, and they have to give us everything we want. But there's a reason why we're talking about lifting sanctions, and we put the sanctions back on after this,
yes.
right? but we had already lifted some of the sanctions. We had to put them back on, right? So that's part of this deal, giving the $300 billion from the Gulf countries basically to Iran as part of that deal. It's an enormous concession from the Gulf countries that they lost the war and Iran won the war.
Yeah, let me just decode it for you and make it very simple to understand, because it's actually not that complicated. The United States lied in signing this MOU. They have always intended to renege on the terms of the MOU. How do I know that? Because our vice president said it. And if you don't believe me, pay very close attention to what he had to say when he was on Michael Knowles' show just days ago. Take a look.
So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy. Yeah. To refill some stocks and then to see where the hand is.
Yeah, we just lied. We agreed to terms that we don't actually agree to just to get the oil flowing, just to alleviate the pressure on the global economy. And then we'll go back to bombing, which, by the way, accomplishes nothing, literally nothing.
Yeah, so I usually look at what the Israelis are saying to figure out what the American government is going to do next. In this case, it's a little bit more muddled than it is usually. So Netanyahu has been asked about it a number of times in interviews here in American television. And his answer has basically been like, well, there's a lot of things in the MOU and we'll see if it comes to fruition or not. So he acknowledges some friction between him and Trump, but we don't know if it's fake or not, right? And
there's no friction.
And so one potential telling sign is, for a minute where it looked like the disagreement was real, that's when Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and all those guys flipped out and their hair was on fire and they're like, wait a minute, go back into the goddamn war, right? And they really cooled down. They're barely saying anything about that. In fact, Mark Levin is on to Turkey and talking about how we need to attack Turkey. So that makes me think the Israelis aren't that worried and they definitely want more war. So then when I see that JD Vance clip, which I hadn't seen, Anna caught that one, and he says, well, we're just restocking on oil and presumably defensive missiles. That might explain why Iran is going, oh, so you guys are just reloading and this thing is fake. And Israel's not only not out of Lebanon, as the MOU says, Israel's going further into Lebanon. And they continue to bomb Gaza, the West, they kill people in the West Bank, bombing Lebanon. And so, okay, so if this peace deal is fake for you guys to reload, then we'll hit some ships. Maybe, so that's a potential explanation.
Yeah, and I do want to show you some footage that's already come in with the U.S. strikes. So take a look at this. I'll explain. Keep my mic up and I'll explain what you're looking at. So this footage shows the moment U.S. missiles struck Shahid Haghani Port in Bandar Abbas. This is in southern Iran. And it is worth noting that the funeral procession is still taking place. There's a ceremony still taking place in regard to the Grand Ayatollah's funeral. And so these are, again, some of the strongest strikes the US has carried out against Iran since the beginning of the war, or at least since the MOU was signed.
Yeah, look, I continue to say that if we actually do leave, we actually do get a peace deal, because at the end of the day, we're gonna have one or we're not gonna have one, right?
We're not gonna have one.
And if we have one, then that means we're not 100% controlled by Israel. We were controlled a lot. We were driven into this war 2 different times when we had absolutely no national interest in it. But if we go back into the war, then it's over. We're 100% controlled by Israel. I know no one in media will acknowledge that.
I'm losing my mind, literally losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. Like, why is this still a question for you? Like, why do you need more to happen to prove to you? Like, we are bankrolling the entirety of this war. We've lost 13 of our soldiers in this war. Oh, we're gonna wait for like another thing to happen to prove definitively that Israel has they have their talons in the skulls of every US politician.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's funny because I'm kind of.
You're so calm about it too. Like,
no, you've seen me be very uncalm about it.
That's true. I want you to stay calm. Okay.
So, look, you think Israel controls us 100%. Everyone in media says 0%, which is hilarious. Come on, guys, you're embarrassing yourselves, right? I'm at, and there's a lot of good people who are like, well, maybe 30 or 50, they have some influence, a lot of influence, but I can't say control because I've been told that that's a trope and it will make, then I'll be canceled from life if I say that. So here we don't care about any of the conventional wisdom, et cetera. So to me, I have an open mind. So I base it on the facts. So until we paused the war, it looked to be 100%, and I told you 100%. Then we paused the war, and it might be that it's a trick, as Anna's saying. So when we paused the war, I said, well, I'll bring it down and get open to the possibility that it's 80 or 90%, but not 100.
I'm not saying it's a trick. Our vice president said it's a trick. So like, I don't get it. So do we just not believe them? Do we not believe JD Vance when he says openly, overtly, like, yeah, we signed the MOU to get the oil flowing, alleviate some of this pressure on the global economy?
Yeah, no, but you could say that and still theoretically mean like, yeah, get the oil flowing and then we'll get to the peace deal, right? So, but the part that actually drew my attention more was when he's talked about restocking.
Yeah.
See, because if you're restocking your defensive missiles, that means you're not on the way to peace and you're on the way to more war, you just needed more ammo, right? And that this has been a trick all along. And yes, Israel does control us 100%, and we are gonna go back into the war for them. And by the way, if that happens, that'll be the third time we attacked Iran on behalf of another country. And in this third time, not only do we not have any national interest like we did in the first two times, like we didn't in the first two times, but on top of that, this time around, we know that our national interests and our economy will be gravely hurt, and we would walk the plank for Israel again, then that makes it completely indisputable. Still, of course, everyone in media and everyone in politics will lie to you. Why? Because they're part of that control.
We're about to merge our militaries and we're pretending like they don't have control over us. But anyway, we gotta take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about how Trump just wants to sell more weaponry. So that's the one area where he might actually go against the Israelis as they beg and plead to avoid selling F-35s to Turkey. Come right back.
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Hey Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that, but you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang, of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech, so wait. Should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh, yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally save?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no. You know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The two buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that, here you go, phone, yeah.
What the f? Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoes. It's in my shoes.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT. The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
Well, really well. I understand sports really well. Really well.
All right, back on TYT, Jen Canano with you guys. Nabil, who was razzing me about the Belgium-USA game, wrote back in and said, "Happy birthday, Lioness."
Ooh, wow.
All right, God bless.
Keep razzing Jake, that was fun.
Okay, well, I love all of our viewers and our members. We appreciate you guys. All right, ring the bell, by the way. That's free and easy. It helps you keep up with the show. And if you can join, it would make a big difference for us. So join button below or tyt.com/join. All right, let's go to the next story. So that's the Turkish president, Tayyip Erdoğan, arm in arm with Donald Trump and directing him to the right place. They're at a NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, the capital. And it looks like Trump is gonna sell some F-35s to Turkey, and Israel's not happy about it. So there's a lot of drama going on in the NATO meeting. Anna, tell us all about it.
I would love to, Cenk. So first, let me just say, that warm embrace there, right? That physical touch, very nice. Very
more
nice.
than he gets from Melania.
True, very true. But no, in all seriousness, this is the NATO summit. So it wasn't just a meeting between Donald Trump and the leader of Turkey. However, the news out of their meeting and what Trump has agreed to do for Turkey is what's getting a lot of attention. So while Benjamin Netanyahu went on a Fox News tour to urge the Trump administration to avoid selling F-35s to Turkey, Trump did have other things in mind. So during President Trump's first term, Turkey was actually thrown out. I talked about this yesterday. Turkey was thrown out of the F-35 program because it actually bought some weaponry from Russia, and that really upset the United States, which of course had sanctioned Russia. To be specific, Turkey had bought S-400 anti-aircraft systems from Russia. Now on Tuesday, when asked about those S-400s, Trump said that he had no concerns at all about anything, which was kind of surprising since his administration sanctioned Turkey during his first term. But okay, he also said this. Take a look.
President, are you going to sell F-35s to Turkey, and what about the legal restrictions?
Well, it's a decision we're going to make. We have a very good relationship. I would think that many people, I can tell you, many people, including the people sitting right here, thinks, why wouldn't we do that? We have a better relationship with Turkey, and Turkey's been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal. So yeah, it's something certainly we would consider. It's a great plane. It's the best, currently the best plane by far. And it's certainly something we will consider, yeah.
Now, in addition to that, Trump also noted that he does intend to plan to do something else for Turkey, and that has to do with sanctions. Take a look at this.
I can tell you, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. Okay? We're going to be taking the sanctions off. It's time. We don't want to sanction friends.
We don't want to sanction friends, which really upset Benjamin Netanyahu, who was given a platform over at CNN to speak with Dana Bash and warn Americans about how terrible this is. Take a look.
He is considering giving the country these planes, F-35s.
Well, as I said, it would destroy the power balance in the Middle East because Turkey, I think, has aggressive aspirations. I mean, they openly say that they want to restore the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire not only included Turkey, it included many other countries, included Syria, it included pieces of Jordan, included all of present-day Israel, included some Gulf countries. So this is not a force for peace and stability. And if you give this kind of radical regime that admittedly smiles to America when it is necessary, or smiles to the president of the United States when it's necessary. When you're given that power, you're going to see aggression in its wake. I wouldn't do that.
I have no love for the Turkish government. I love the Turkish people, have no ill will against them whatsoever. But I do want to just be very clear about something. There's been no indication that Turkey is looking to, pursue the Ottoman Empire, but there is a lot of indication, including from Benjamin Netanyahu himself, who told I-24 News that the Greater Israel Project is near and dear to his heart. So all of the territories and countries that he listed there are territories and countries that he would like Israel to expand to.
Yeah, I mean, everything he said there was, every Israeli accusation is a confession. Sometimes they'll smile in your face, but they're actually a radical regime. You're exactly describing Israel. Netanyahu comes here and goes, oh yeah, we are such great allies. Now look, give me money and a military to destroy all my neighbors. You're talking about regional peace and security. Brother, Turkey didn't attack Lebanon, you did. Turkey didn't do a genocide in Gaza, you did. Turkey didn't kill 1,000 people in the West Bank and rip it to shreds, you did. Turkey didn't invade Iran, you did. In Syria, they both did. Okay.
That's true, right? Yes.
So now, he says this would destroy the balance of power in the Middle East. No, it would actually bring a balance of power in the Middle East. Because right now, since Israel has all of the power, they have nukes, they have Iron Dome, they have the US military behind them, they're attacking all of their neighbors. And it's because there's no balance. There's no one to push back. There's a bunch of ragtag guys in Gaza throwing rocks and they're like, oh my God, we're in danger. No, that's preposterous, right? And there's Hezbollah who, half of them got blown up by pagers. These are not giant militaries. So Iran has a real military and Israel just found out about it. Turkey has a real military, so they're concerned about it. And partly because Israeli officials have said they want to attack Turkey next. So they're not worried about a balance of power. They want all of the power in the Middle East so they can attack any country they want and those countries cannot defend themselves. So now they're like, oh, just because Turkey's been a reliable ally in NATO and they have the second largest military in NATO and they're actually arguably one of the allies that have stuck up for you more than any other ally in our lifetimes. But they're in our way. We told you we want to attack them. You are to give them nothing to defend themselves.
So let me explain what's also happening behind the scenes that you might not know about. And I'm so curious to see how this clash is going to play out, Cenk. Because our European NATO allies are basically preparing to go to war with Russia. I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally what they're doing, and they say it out loud. And one of the things that developed over the weekend is that our European NATO allies are viewing Turkey as an important part of that war, of that fight on behalf of NATO. So if you have Israel on one hand, that's like, we want to be the dominant ones in the region, which means we want, like, if Israel could have its way, they would literally disarm every country in the region. And in fact, they've succeeded to a large extent with some of these countries. Why do you think the Lebanese military is so flaccid and can't do a damn thing about Hezbollah? Why do you think?
Or Israel.
Or Israel. I mean, it's by design. The only line of defense that the Lebanese people have in regard to maintaining their borders, whether they like it or not, happens to be Hezbollah. But okay, putting that aside entirely. So with Israel wanting to weaken Turkey because they must be the dominant ones who control everything in the region, and with the European allies of the United States saying that Turkey is an important part of their impending war against Russia, what's gonna happen?
Well, they're worried about an impending war, so we'll see how that goes. But
they're agitating for it.
So no. This shows how much leverage Turkey has, because since they're situated right in the middle of all of this mess, and they could, they're at a situation where they're part of NATO, right? But they did buy those S-400s from Russia, and part of that is to keep everyone guessing and to build leverage against the different forces at play.
Fun.
And before, they used to be against Iran because Turkey's one of the epicenters of Sunni Islam, and Iran is the epicenter of Shiite Islam, and they're opposed to each other. But now they're closer to each other because of Israel. Israel's uniting a lot of folks. But either way, Turkey's in a pivotal situation there. So normally Israel can just steamroll any other country. They tell us to attack Iran, we attack Iran. They tell us, look the other way, we're gonna butcher Lebanon and take southern Lebanon, we look the other way. But when it comes to Turkey, that's where America and the Europeans are like, that one's a harder ask, guys, because those guys are pivotal in our defense. And if we're in trouble, we need the Turks. So now you want us to sacrifice all of the Middle East and Turkey? And why do you want that? See, again, every accusation is a confession from the Israelis. Netanyahu's like, they're trying to reconstitute the Ottoman Empire. And by the way, you notice some Republican puppets in this country regurgitating that in their town halls. Those guys don't even know what the Ottoman Empire is. So those talking points written for them by the Israeli government, I mean, those are assets. They should be investigated legally for where they're getting their talking points from, because there's no way some of those guys have any idea what the Ottoman Empire is. Anyways, so Ottoman Empire is not being reconstituted. That's fantasy and totally made up by the Israelis. On the other hand, as Anna pointed out, Greater Israel is the empire trying to take over the Middle East right now. We can see it with our own eyes. They're in all of those countries.
Based on what Netanyahu himself has said, I-24 News, look it up. So for people who are like, oh, that's anti-Semitic, is it anti-Semitic to just repeat what Israeli politicians say on the record, what their actual agenda is? I know we're supposed to just regurgitate US media, which lies to us about what Israel's up to. I would prefer to listen to the Israelis when they tell us straight up what they intend to do.
Yeah, so, and then Trump's a funny guy as always, accidentally. So they're more loyal than people you would expect to be loyal. I don't know who he means by that. If he means Europe and NATO.
He means Europe and NATO.
Yeah.
He's super salty that our European allies weren't moronic enough to enter a stupid war against Iran on behalf of Israel. Only the US was stupid enough to do that. And when I say the US was stupid enough, I'm obviously talking about our government, which uses our service members as cannon fodder on behalf of their precious ally. So that's the reality of the situation.
I would be surprised if Trump and Erdoğan don't have some deal that we don't know about.
Like a financial deal?
Yeah.
100%, I thought the same thing. We don't know for sure, we're speculating, but Trump will throw anyone under the bus for his own enrichment. So what stood out to me was how bold he was in kind of ignoring, like just basically like to Netanyahu when it comes to this. And the only thing that would convince him to do it is if there's like something to sweeten the pot for himself.
Let me just put it this way. I've never seen Trump like look at American interests and go, oh wow, this is really important to American interests. Okay, that's why I'm supporting them. No, I've seen him go, Jared, did you make a deal with them? A couple of $1 billion, good. Hey, you guys, you got the deal from Kazakhstan, Don Jr. and Eric, and you guys got the deal. Oh, and Qatar's giving me a jet. Donald Trump is very famous for looking out for his own interest and not anyone else's.
Let me give you a specific example. Remember, when he had his visit to China fairly recently, he brought a bunch of corporate executives with him. Well, they happened to be corporate executives representing companies that he had just heavily invested in. So he took this gaggle of corporate executives with him to China in an effort to make deals between them and China.
Because he's literally part owner of those companies now that he's bought so many shares in them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Donald Trump. And Erdoğan has not been known for being so moral that he wouldn't make a secret deal.
Right.
Right, to say the least. So, but he has played this foreign policy brilliantly. Whether you like it or you don't like it, he is the only country that I have ever seen stand up to Israel and for the moment being win strategically with the Western powers.
Because he has the military for it. Lebanon doesn't.
And the geography and the population and the fighting spirit.
Yeah.
So, and last thing is, it shows you how mental the Israelis are. You're gonna go pick a fight with a NATO ally and a military that loves to fight, as 80 to 90 million people in it now, and can't wait to get in the fight, and has all of Europe and America behind it.
Yeah.
You would have to be insane to talk about taking them on next.
Not if you can get your cattle to fight the war.
They're out of control. They're totally out of control. But hey, look, in this case, Trump siding with the Turks.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll give you some updates on Section 219. That's the provision in the National Defense Authorization Act that would merge the genocidal IDF with our own military. Come right back.
All right, let's go to our members on TYT.com. George says the most unique of the Jungle Dragon, says, Anna, congratulations on your annual survival day.
Thank you.
That's one way of putting it. Wang Jun says, apparently having self-awareness is also anti-Semitic. Everything is anti-Semitic, just bake that in. Like if you find something that isn't anti-Semitic, be like, whoa, maybe write in about that. Asimov's prophet says, so about Platner, it's she said, he said, back we go to conviction without a trial because it is a challenger to Israel first. Doodle Dragon Imran has a different opinion. I guess all the red flags caught up with him, referring to Platner. I love you all, TYT. This is the obvious dark side to populism and movements that don't scrutinize their candidates. First, I gotta say, it's not fair to say that no one scrutinized them. In fact, I think he's been scrutinized more than any other candidate. But I hear you. He says, guess what? A guy that works as a contractor for war has a Nazi tattoo, and every woman he's previously been with says he's trash. That's actually not true. A lot of them said that they really liked him. Did Maine run out of dudes to run for office? Is he the last guy that can run in Maine? Again, I hate this, but this wheel is far too squeaky. Drop him, drop the motion he's getting. It was all a media flurry. We can all hate Susan Collins, but keep your head on a swivel when someone asks you to look away. I've got to say one quick thing about that. Did we run out of people to run for office? Do you know how hard it is to find someone who's honest and runs in politics and has a chance of winning? It's nearly impossible. Yeah. Almost everyone who runs is an establishment candidate that loves to take PAC and AIPAC money. Anna, did you want to say something?
No, I just want to say, like, the tattoo thing did bother me, and I said so on this show, and I wish that,
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. All right, we got a lot more stories, so let's do it. Let's go to the next one.
Israel can't fight 7 wars or whatever, how many fronts they have at any given time without the United States paying for most of it, which we do. And so we can withdraw the support and thereby control, at least theoretically control Israel's behavior. We never have, but we could. This would, if it becomes law, integrate the militaries to such an extent that the United States would actually be at the mercy of Israel. So Israel withdraws technology and the United States military is hamstrung. So it would actually put Israel in the driver's seat.
That's right. 100% correct. And as such, it's adverse to the national security interests of the United States of America.
So that's former 8-term Congressman Dennis Kucinich. If you remember him from some of the presidential runs, you'll remember that mainstream media was like, Dennis Kucinich, he's crazy. He's against us funding Israel. Apparently not crazy. So what they're talking about is Section 219, which takes away American sovereignty and merges the technology of our military with Israel's military. So we're going to tell you a lot more about that, but I'm also going to come back to, yes, but what do Jewish Americans think of what's happening in this regard? And some of those numbers might shock you. So we'll come back to that. But Anna, tell us about Section 219 and what happened here.
Well, it does look as though pressure from voters, which tends to still work, has slightly moved Democratic Congressman Adam Smith's decision or position on supporting Section 219. Now, let me just pause and say the fact that this Democratic lawmaker ever supported the idea of merging a foreign military with our own is disgusting and treasonous. And in fact, he's one of the leaders in the Armed Services Committee who blocked Representative Ro Khanna's amendment to strip Section 219 from the National Defense Authorization Act. So he's part of the problem, but he apparently got so much pushback from his constituents that he's like, yeah, maybe I'm changing my mind a little bit. I really want to save my political career. So anyway, this is relevant, again, because he's the head of the House Armed Services Committee, and it is also important to note that he blocked Ro Khanna's amendment. But now, here's what he's saying. According to the Wall Street Journal, he said, quote, "It's my position that the provision should be stripped out." Fascinating. Now, he explains that he was driven by the talks he's been having with his constituents. Thank you to those constituents. I love you and appreciate you. He cited the case of a Turkish American activist who was slaughtered by Israeli settlers in the West Bank as part of his reasoning behind it. Smith described himself as a strong supporter of Israel's right to exist, but very critical of the Netanyahu government, especially its West Bank policies. He also says you have to put pressure on Israel somewhere. And I want to be clear that the problem with Israel isn't simply the fact that it's led by a genocidal freak like Benjamin Netanyahu. If you look at polling, the vast majority of Israelis absolutely love the slaughter of innocents and love the idea of expanding their borders, but I digress. Now, it seems the same ridiculous argument in favor of deregulating or keeping AI deregulated is the same argument that goons like Representative Smith are using to defend a possible military merger at the same time. So Bradley Bowman, by the way, he's from the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, said this to the Wall Street Journal, quote, "We need to compete with China," he says. "That requires learning from beleaguered democracies like Ukraine, Taiwan, and also Israel, which is the best in the world in some areas of defense tech." Okay. And then the Wall Street Journal editorial board says this: Israel excels at going from concept to fully funded combat capability, a US weakness. Why the F have we been providing close to $1 trillion a year to the Pentagon if you're gonna tell me that our military ain't crap? Seriously, please explain it to me. Why are American taxpayers shelling out more and more money every single year to our Pentagon, which hasn't passed a single audit, not one? And then on top of that, we're gonna hear from the Wall Street Journal editorial board about how like, oh, the Americans, they need the Israelis. We absolutely must merge our militaries because our military, dog crap. They can't get it done. Their combat capabilities, trash. We need the Israelis. First of all, I'm not buying it. Second of all, it's amazing to me how many goons and ghouls in this country, both in politics and our media, will literally trash our own country and our own military in order to defend Israel's treachery and greed, because that's what this is about. Israel doesn't like the fact that the American people are against them. They don't want to deal with the criticism. So wouldn't it be easier to, kind of skirt the whole MOU thing where we send them billions of dollars every year and instead just have them in our military, taking advantage of the $1.5 trillion that Trump is asking for the next National Defense Authorization Act?
So when he went to explain why Israel's so important, that is a super weak excuse that we need to be better at fully funded combat capability.
Are we not fully funded?
I mean, wait, how could Israel be more fully funded than us? If he's talking about quick response in combat, apparently the Iranians are the best in the business at it. The Ukrainians are pretty good. Are we gonna merge our military? Okay, Iran's an enemy. They don't need to be, they are because Israel made them our enemy. But okay, let's go to Ukraine. Are we gonna merge our military with Ukraine because they've very quickly adjusted to what the Russians did and fought back? No, of course not. We would never consider that. Over something as simple as we need to adjust a little bit quicker in the battlefield. Well, why don't we get our military to learn how to adjust quicker?
You know what,
do we not have eyes? Do we not have satellite? Do we not have Starlink? Do we not have any intelligence? We don't know what the Ukrainians did. We don't know what the Iranians did. Do you see how lame and weak this excuse is?
No, Jake.
And one more, Anna. And apparently it requires a full merger of our military technology so they can have it all in order to do this tiny little thing that we could do on our own.
How many hours did it take the IDF to respond to October 7th? How many hours? How many effing hours did it take the IDF to respond to Hamas on October 7th? I believe it was 6 hours. 6 freaking hours.
Yeah.
And they have the audacity, the Wall Street Journal editorial board has the audacity to tell us that our military is garbage and we need the Israelis. The Israelis are so much more superior than the Americans are, right? Their capabilities are incredible. It only took them 6 hours to respond on October 7th. These people are so ghoulish and disgusting. I can't stand it anymore. And to the constituents who apparently applied enough pressure to get this gross congressman to maybe reconsider his position, thank you. Keep your boot on his head, okay? Ensure that this provision is stripped out of the final bill. Because once this is done, there's no going back, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, so as usual, what is the amendment that is proposed to strip out this provision? It's the Massey amendment. There they are again, the only people doing anything in Congress. So let's go to Tom Massey explaining why. He said, my amendment to strip section 219 from the NDAA was rejected last week by the Rules Committee without even a debate. But their rule for the NDAA didn't pass the House. When we reconvene, I will offer my amendment again to strip the merger of our military supply chain with Israel's. So there's no need for that merger, as Massey on the right explains, Ro Khanna on the left explains. But on top of that, they didn't even allow a vote. So that's how much Israel controls us, where they go, you're not even allowed to have your representatives who work for us anyway have a vote on this. No, you are to merge our militaries based on the weakest excuse we've ever had in creation. And you have no voice at all, and you're to all shut up and do as Israel orders you to do, but they don't control us at all. And that's an anti-Semitic position. No, to be fair, we merged our military with Honduras a couple of weeks ago, and there was no vote on that either. Oh, right, no, that hasn't happened with any other country, would never happen, including with huge allies that have enormous militaries like the UK, France, Canada. There's no talk of merging our militaries. There's none of that. Only Israel, and no votes allowed, okay? Now, there's one other aspect of this, Anna, that I want to talk about. So this is all painted as, but if you object, you're an anti-Semite. That's interesting, because there's new polling out from the Associated Press, and it confirms all the other polls that I've seen, but that you never see unless you're watching the Young Turks, honestly. So you've heard me say this, that many times, and the Associated Press confirms the other poll that I got, by the way, from the Jewish American press, which is that the earlier poll said 63% of Jewish Americans are opposed to the current Israeli government. Associated Press confirms over 60% of Jewish Americans currently opposed to the Israeli government, right? That doesn't mean they hate Israel or they're opposed to the Israeli nation or Israeli people, but they're against Netanyahu's government. Only a third of Jewish Americans support Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Now, part of the reason I tell you that, I've got more, but part of the reason I tell you that is because if you turn on a television set or you read a mainstream media outlet, you'd never think that Jewish Americans were opposed to the Israeli government. You would think if you oppose the Israeli government, you're a vicious anti-Semite. I mean, that's what they say 24/7. In fact, Alyssa Farah Griffin said it to Marjorie Taylor Greene today. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about AIPAC's influence on elections on The View, she's like, that is an anti-Semitic thing to say. Well, are 63% or over 60% of Jewish Americans anti-Semites? But wait, 4 out of 10 say that Israel went way too far in Gaza and their actions were unjustified. Did you get a sense that 40% of Jewish Americans were livid about what happened in Gaza? Do you know that 30% of Jewish Americans call what happened in Gaza a genocide? Okay, so you never hear from those folks because it's not convenient for Israel. What is convenient for Israel is to pretend that they represent all Jews and all Jewish Americans, and that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic and hence must be shut down by definition, never allowed in media. So under their absurd ideology, which almost everyone in media agrees to, including what just happened today on television, right? And according to all of our politicians, that means that about 2/3 of Jewish Americans are anti-Semitic because they also have morals and say, no, what's going on in Israel and Gaza is not right. Right? So only 1/3 support the lunatic Netanyahu government. And yet if you turn on television, you'd think it was 200% of Jewish Americans, which by the way is also anti-Semitic, actually anti-Semitic. To say that Jews are in favor of a genocide when they're not, to say that they're in favor of this barbaric Netanyahu government when they are not, okay? So, and then you see, this isn't about religion, this isn't about Jews or Muslims or Christians. No, this is about one nation that has brilliantly figured out how to get a hold of our government. And the way you do it is you buy up the media and you are the #1 contributor to members of Congress. It's that simple, and then you have the country until online media came along. And that's why now they're furious because this type of stuff would have passed with no one noticing. Because to this day, mainstream media has barely written about this.
No, they don't. I mean, honestly,
almost nothing.
The Wall Street Journal's editorial board wrote about it.
And only because Adam Smith had flipped on it.
That's exactly right.
And they're like, this has got to pass for Israel. By the way, we're not controlled by Israel.
Our military is trash. We need Israel. We spend $1 trillion a year on our military, but they just can't do it. Sorry, we need Israel. They're so advanced with their technology. Their intel is so great. Their intel is so great that they couldn't even figure out that Hamas was plotting October 7th, even though the intelligence was literally in their own hands.
See, Rupert Murdoch's a great example. Rupert Murdoch owns Wall Street Journal, Fox News, New York Post. Those are the most Zionist outlets in America by a lot. Rupert Murdoch is a crazed lunatic Zionist, not Jewish. But he loves and supports every war and every genocide and every piece of torture that Israel does. Murdoch loves it. I don't know, maybe because he's Darth Vader and he's like, they look almost as evil as I am, right? So that is why when you say owned by Zionists, it doesn't necessarily mean Jewish people at all, okay? So that entire operation owned by Murdoch, not at all Jewish, but as radical as Zionists as you will find on planet Earth. And so all those guys are purposely not covering Section 219, except Murdoch goes, we attack Adam Smith. He has defied Israel, right? And that editorial board completely reports into Rupert Murdoch, 100% controlled by him.
Benjamin Netanyahu defended Israeli settlers in the West Bank today while talking to Dana Bash on CNN. Just understand what our media is and do yourself a huge favor. Check out what's being said and reported with Israeli media because they tell the truth. They assume that no American's ever gonna read what they're saying and writing about and reporting on. So they actually report the truth. You should read those publications.
And guys, that is the same reason why Netanyahu and some of the Israelis are so frustrated now that America won't bend as quickly and easily as they normally
Our
get.
government does.
Our government does, but not the people. And that's why they're not allowing votes, because they're worried. It's not like they'd lose the vote. All those servants of Israel would vote to merge our militaries anyway. They're all in favor of it. That's why it's sailing through Congress without a vote.
But they'd have to deal with the reckoning.
But if they were to put their name on the vote, they know they've lost the American people, and then they would have to account for, why the hell did you merge our militaries and cost us all of our intelligence and trillions of dollars that we spent on our technology, intelligence, and data? And so they don't want those consequences, but they're all panicked in this scenario because in the old days, they 100% controlled mainstream media. And so they would just lie to you 24/7, say, oh, they're the victims and all this stuff, and they're only doing self-defense, and all the Muslims are savages and terrorists who need to be killed, right? But now, we have to merge our militaries because Israel helps us so much. They have all of these talking points that have never been challenged. The minute online media challenged them, poof, boom, house of cards, right? Us merging our militaries today in that Wall Street editorial board conversation, they were like, that helps America more than it helps Israel.
Yeah,
giving Israel $320 billion helped us more than it helped. And you know what I say to that? Great, then we'll help Israel. You give us all of your technology without getting anything back from us, and you give us $320 billion. Because apparently it's gonna help you so much. You're welcome. And they go, no way. No way, Israel doesn't owe you anything. You owe Israel everything, right? Including your entire military. Merge them right away, no votes allowed. But Israel doesn't control. My ass, it doesn't control. This shows you definitively that Israel controls our Congress.
Note it.
No, but Anna, the debate we have is whether it's 80, 90, or 100% controlled. So if they merge this without a vote, then yeah, okay, you could say Trump's not 100% because he sold F-35s to Turkey, but Congress has always been Israel's bitch.
To the American people, keep your boot on their necks.
Okay, super last thing. Look, guys, under Obama does a deal that Israel doesn't like with Iran. Okay, it's exceptions to the rule. Trump selling the F-35s, Obama doing the Iran deal. I don't know if there's a third example of a US president defying Israel. I know Kennedy did. Anyway, so now when it comes to Congress though, as Obama was saying no to Israel, the Democrats and Republicans were giving standing ovations to Netanyahu in Congress.
Yep.
They were bowing to him like, your great leader has arrived. Who cares about stupid President Obama? And now the Republicans are like, who cares about stupid President Trump? Netanyahu, Israel, we bow, right? You're telling me Congress isn't controlled? 94% of Congress got checks from the Israeli lobby. It's obvious, overwhelming control.
Yeah. All right, we got to take our final break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Palestinian pediatrician who's currently being tortured by the Israelis. Don't miss it.
All right, let's go to Super Chat. Jonathan Boris-Johnny says, happy birthday, Anna. Impressed you're working. You're one of the clearest and sanest millennial voices in media, and I'm glad you're here. Hope you have a great year. Much love from the chat.
Thank you.
It's literally 1984 writes in, why does America need Israel's concentration camp technology? That's a good question.
Why do we need to merge with a military that literally slaughters their own people with the Hannibal directive? They're so sophisticated. The US is, nothing. We're peanuts compared to the Israeli military, so strong and powerful that they kill their own people. Ew, disgusting.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
It's like saying no, the Nazis make the trains run on time, so we need to merge our militaries to figure out how to run the trains. No, we could run the trains fine without merging with Nazis. Konstantin Kaviros says, my grandfather fought against the Ottoman Empire in the First Balkan War. He was from Chios, a few generations removed from the massacre of Chios at the hands of the Ottoman Empire. So I think I speak with some weight when I say F you, Netanyahu. Okay, I didn't see that coming. So nice, Konstantin. Make it make sense, says Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein, same, but different, but still same. Uniparty 100%. Can we get term limits / age limits anytime now? And obviously we can't because the same corrupt Congress people go, I'm not voting myself out of power. I still have checks to cash, and I still have foreign governments and corporations to serve. Momo Kwan says, happy birthday, Anna. You're one of the toughest and best.
Thank you.
Overthinker Final Boss says about Platner, do you think he'll find a defamation lawsuit? This is a YouTube super chat. Women AF says, third degree chess. Okay, screw that one up. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna, you got a tweet there?
I sure do. This was sent to me by our producer Jephthah, and I love it. So this is a post on X by Representative Thomas Massey. I thought it was hilarious, and I wanted to share it with you all. He says, I spoke to McConnell for about 20 minutes this morning. And then he says, he said we should end the war with Iran, quit giving aid to Israel, stop spying on Americans without a warrant, and he's really sorry about how my primary turned out.
Well, if we're making up conversations about our, what Mitch McConnell said, why not? Oh, like no one believes Scott Jennings.
No
one. Everyone is positive he's a giant liar because he has a track record of being a giant liar.
100%.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next story. Israel has held a Palestinian pediatrician and tortured him for 550 days with no charges. No charges at all, okay? And so wait till you see how badly he's been tortured. His crime, he insisted on staying with his patients who were kids who needed help during the genocide in Gaza. And Israel never forgave him for that and has been torturing him ever since. Anna's got the facts.
Right, rather than abandoning his patients during mandatory evacuation orders, he insisted on staying behind at the hospital in order to provide care to his patients. And for that, the Israelis detained him and have been torturing him ever since. In fact, we have some images to share with you that'll prove that. Now, this doctor is Dr. Hussam Abu Safia. He's the head of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Bet Lahia, Gaza. And unsure of what the condition of that hospital is at this moment, Israel is still refusing to allow international journalists into the Gaza Strip because they probably don't want reporters to, report on the annihilation of the Palestinian people and the complete destruction of the Gaza Strip, which of course the Israelis plan to settle soon. Now, he is a pediatrician that was on the day of his detainment taking care of tens of critically ill children, most of whom were visibly malnourished and in urgent need of medication. Now, on October 27th, 2024, the Israeli army stormed the hospital, removed patients and staff, and left the hospital burning. That's what they do. The raid put Kamal Adwan, the last remaining major hospital in the area, out of service. Now, why was he arrested? What are the Israelis saying? What's the reality? Well, Abu Safia had been held without charge, has been held without charge by Israel. And they are, I guess, accusing him of being a member of Hamas with no evidence, with no charges, by the way. No charges. This is what they do. And there's no evidence that he's ever been associated with Hamas or to justify his detention. On June 16th of this year, Israel's Supreme Court upheld the latest detention order against him, which would keep him in detention for up until October at least, but they keep renewing it, right? So they keep renewing his detention. He keeps remaining there longer and longer. Since June 3rd, Dr. Safia had been held in solitary confinement while continuing to be detained, or denied, I should say, access to adequate health care. And according to the Nelson Mandela rules that limit holding someone in solitary confinement to 15 days, that's been totally ignored. That's obviously, they're holding him in solitary confinement for longer periods of time. So I want to show you what his current condition is. You're going to see the before image of him and then the after image of him. And by the way, there are also videos of him looking malnourished and clearly in poor condition. So after being transferred, he was able to speak to his lawyer, and the doctor told the lawyer, quote, "This is the last time you will see me. They brought me here to kill me. I don't see myself surviving. This is the end." Now, his sons also reported seeing their father in an unrecognizable condition. Let me read you what Elias Abu Safia had to say. "My father was unable to breathe. My father was unable to speak. His face was disfigured from the marks of torture and pain, especially after the last court session held in Jerusalem at the Supreme Court. We still call out, plead, appeal, and beg to all the free people of the world and to everyone with an atom of humanity in their heart to save my father's life before it's too late." The big crime is that he wouldn't evacuate a hospital and abandon his patients who were literally children. For that crime, the Israelis detained him, and Physicians for Human Rights Israel documented what's been going on. So according to Dr. Abu Safia, after a hearing in his appeal at the Israeli Supreme Court, 4 to 5 officers entered his cell and beat him across his body with a hammer and batons. He said that similar violence has since become a daily occurrence, causing him to lose consciousness several times over the previous week. His attorney reported that the doctor arrived at their most recent meeting with both his hands and feet cuffed and accompanied by masked guards. He observed fresh bruising across the doctor's body, including on his head and around his eyes, ears, and neck, injuries so severe that he could barely recognize him. Let me just read one more. During the meeting, the doctor had difficulty breathing and speaking, appeared extremely weak, and struggled to remain seated without falling. On several occasions, he leaned backward, raising fears that he was about to lose consciousness. He's not alone, by the way. There are many others held. 82 other healthcare workers are still languishing in Israeli prisons.
Yep. So when you arrest someone without charges and you keep them for nearly 2 years and never charge him, that means there are no charges and he's just a hostage. He's not a prisoner, he's not a detainee, he's a hostage. And there's other, as Anna pointed out, 82 other healthcare professionals who are hostages of Israel. But you probably don't know that's not your fault because national media here are disgusting propagandists for Israel. They're kind of the Goebbels that covers up all of Israel's crimes. So they never told you, do you know that Israel takes thousands of hostages? So when the Israelis were taken hostage on October 7th, it was the most important thing in the history of the world, and those hostages had to be brought back. Palestinians are taken hostage, and our media goes, who cares? They're not even human. They're not precious Israelis. They're irrelevant. Wait, it's not just Palestinians. Do you know that they kidnapped a 16-year-old American kid, Mohammed Ibrahim, and they put him in one of these dungeon chambers? He developed a disease. He was malnourished. People were worried that he was gonna die. And luckily, in that case, Senator Van Hollen and some other angels here in America made such a big deal out of it. We tried in our own ways. We try to help as well through Operation Hope that we do here at TYT. But I think Senator Van Hollen had by far the biggest impact. And he was able to get that teenage innocent American kid out of one of these gulags, one of these concentration camps that Israel runs. But they were, and we've reported in the past, and human rights groups, including Israeli human rights groups, have reported tons of rape in these facilities, women being raped by the guards, men being raped by the guards.
Gang raped, in fact.
Gang raped, dogs doing raping of the detainees and hostages, etc. It is a sick, vicious, fascist government. We're being forced to fund it. And look, even if Dr. Abu Safia somehow miraculously survives, and that would be amazing, and we should all do our best to try to make that happen. He will have been tortured for 2 years straight by these fascists. And we funded his torture. We fund those torture chambers where they keep all those innocent Palestinian hostages. And our media is so disgustingly racist and bigoted that they think, who cares? Just stupid Americans and stupid Palestinians and Arabs, their lives have no value at all. Only precious Israelis count. I can't be disgusted enough with our media.
And I just have to say, the international doctors who literally risk their lives to provide care to Palestinians in Gaza, these are the real heroes.
Yes.
Knowing what's happening to healthcare workers, knowing what's happening to journalists, knowing what's happening to literal children, toddlers in some cases, who have gunshot wounds to the head and chest. These doctors still show up. They still risk their lives. They still provide care. Those are the people who keep me going. Because honestly, dealing with this level of evil day in and day out with the job that we do, it makes you want to give up on humanity. But there are, honestly, most humans are good. Unfortunately, right now, not a lot of them are in the Israeli government or the IDF.
Yeah, those doctors, both the Palestinians and the Americans that go into Gaza to save those kids and save those people, absolute angels. I mean, you can't find better, bigger angels than that.
Yeah.
And at the very opposite end of that spectrum is every cable news anchor in America, who are all disgusting terrorist lovers, who bury all this news for you guys, never ever reported, so that you'll be deluded and tricked and manipulated, deceived into supporting Israel, the terrorist state, as they torture people with our money.
We're looking at you, Dana Bash. We're looking at you, not even challenging a literal war criminal wanted by the International Criminal Court on your airwaves just today. We're looking at you.
And
disgusting.
In fact, Dana Bash, Netanyahu starts attacking Haley Stevens because she's not been sufficiently slavish enough to Israel, even though she's funded by AIPAC, etc. And Dana Bash steps in and goes, no, you're better off with her winning. Wait, why are you advocating for the Israelis when you're supposed to be a reporter challenging the prime minister of Israel?
We know.
No, we know. And has Dana Bash talked about the genocide? She would never call it a genocide because she's not an objective reporter. She's a propagandist for Israel. Has she talked about the 23,000 dead children that her beloved Israel slaughtered? Has she talked about all the torture that's going on in the Israeli prison system? Has she talked about the Palestinian hostages? Has she talked about the brutal, oppressive 58-year occupation of the Palestinians? No, because she doesn't care about them. She thinks they're inferior to her, and they're not at all important. They're barely even human. The only people that matter to Dana Bash, and to be fair to Dana, almost every cable news anchor in America is the Israelis, and only the Israelis. So that's a fact. They never covered this. They cover it up because they're monsters.
100%.
All right. We're gonna switch gears entirely when we come back. Operation Joy, where us and you spread joy in the world. How? We'll come back and find out. Back on TYT. So in Operation Joy, we read some of your comments that are joyous, and we talk about sometimes tips on how to get just a little bit happier in life. Because what are we doing here? If we're not going to be happy, what are we doing? So let's try to bring positive change in your personal life as well as in the world, right? Because we have this beautiful, open mind, open hearted community. So open your heart to yourself as well. So I'm gonna read some of your comments from that in a second from tyt.com/joy. Real quick though here from leftover from the show, Knuckle Dragon, a YouTube member said, I dig your strong principles, Anna. You're a great example for others. You too, Cenk.
I love the way you read that. That was so good.
Okay, no, but Knuckle Dragon, you're awesome. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate you. Sorry, they're watching on Twitch in their case. But yeah, no, look, I get this from the audience all the time when I'm out at a speaking engagement or out in town and stuff. People coming up and saying Anna's been a role model for them, their daughters, and it's a beautiful thing to hear. And I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you noticing.
I can't stand injustice, and unfortunately, there's a lot of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's one thing, or there's two things at a minimum that most unite Anna and I, and why we've done this show together for so long. We both can't stand injustice, and we're obsessed with what's true.
Totally, yeah.
And it turns out that's actually relatively rare. I would have thought that everybody in news was obsessed with what's true and cared about justice. Boy, was I wrong. No, most people in news are the exact opposite because they're not in news. They're in propaganda disguised as news. So anyways, okay, back to Joy. Michael Napin's a longtime member and very supportive. In fact, Anna mentioned him earlier today, and he wrote into me and he said, Dear Cenk, although I only lived there for a few years, I am a Belgium national.
Oh.
Therefore, with love, because you're one of the best, but still, down goes USA. I'm not gonna read the rest, okay? But hashtag USA v Belgium, hashtag Operation Joy, hashtag TYT Live. Michael, we appreciate you. As I said earlier in the show, Belgium did a great job. We choked, man. The American team was terrible.
Do you think
Michael
morale,
also said that.
Do you think morale was low because of the whole debacle with Trump and stuff?
I think two things happened. Yeah, I think Trump jinxed the hell out of him. And I don't mean it in a literal sense of jinxing, but I do mean it in a literal sense of it got in their head.
Of course, yeah.
And so I know, and this is a weird way of giving credit to the US team. If I think we got a bad call on our team, I play worse. It's psychological. I feel bad for the other guys because they got robbed, right? And so do I think there's a little bit of that? I do. And then number two, honestly, we were nervous. And I was shocked at how nervous they played.
We were nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Team America.
No, I like that. No, of course. I mean, I would have preferred, look, ideal scenario, Trump was never involved. I agree, even though I'm not a sports expert at all, it probably should have been a yellow card. He shouldn't have been banned from playing one of the matches. That would have been ideal, and with what did happen with the red card, I still don't think Trump should have gotten involved. I think that was a bad.
No, after the game, no. In fact, it's like as soon as the game started, I was like, damn it, Trump definitely shouldn't have gotten involved.
Yeah,
because they were playing different. They just were. I think it got in their heads. And so it was just a disaster all around. But mainly credit to the Belgians who did a great job, and I was mad at them, and so I even got to a point where I said, "Oh, they're gonna, slow the game down." No, they didn't, and they scored 5 goals earlier in the tournament as well. So I was just getting carried away.
How can you possibly slow down soccer more than it's already slow?
No, you can't. It's called parking the bus, and and a lot of teams do it. The Italians do it so much they didn't make the World Cup.
Oh, the Italians can park my bus. I'm just I'm kidding. I'm a married woman.
They also call it haram ball, which is kind of funny.
That is funny.
Yeah. But the Belgians didn't do that at all. All right, now more. Now we go to patience. I've had some very unexpected joy mixed with hope recently. I started a YouTube gaming channel, and since I've been out of the gaming world for so long, I've been checking out some other creators in that realm. I'm not here to talk about my channel. I'm still pretty self-conscious of it. But I have discovered something that is currently blowing my mind and giving me crazy amount of hope. This might sound insane, but I hope Cenk takes me seriously and gives me the benefit of the doubt here. I predict that Asmongold, yes, the same guy Hassan can't stand, really seems to be one of the pieces we're looking for in this unity puzzle. Oh, that's interesting. I've been consuming a lot of his content lately, and I've come to one conclusion, taken in clips. Asmon is an a-hole.
Yeah, totally.
But taken in context over many, many videos, I would argue that he's less like quote unquote them and a hell of a lot more like us. This guy seems like a feminist who doesn't know he's one of us because he seems to think of a feminist as the most extreme man-hater type person. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I sent him a gift membership and recommended Operation Joy. Oh, wow. I think at his core, he's a really good dude who has grown up on the other side and consumed a different world of information. I'm finding so much joy in taking part in his comment threads and immersing myself in a world where I shouldn't belong, but I feel so seen. I think if you sat down with him, he might surprise you. I think you'd find a lot of common ground. Okay, first I gotta say, I don't know a thing about Asmongold.
I knew it. I knew it. I know a little bit. I
know that he beefed with Hassan, but I don't know what the beef's about. I don't know a thing about it.
I know that Hassan doesn't get along with him. I don't know why either, and I personally don't care. I've seen like a few videos, but to be fair, it was like during the 2024 cycle where he said a few things I didn't agree with. I don't hate the guy. I guess I'm neutral. I need to know more. I need to consume more of his content to have an opinion. But the stuff that I did see, I was like, I don't like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. Who knows?
No. Their Patience is saying that they're on the other side, grew up on the other side, Asmongold did, right? So look, what I get out of it is two things. One, you found a pocket of joy somewhere, run with it. Okay, don't worry about other people's opinions,
exactly,
et cetera.
100%.
And number two is, I like that you're going and checking out something different. And you could have checked it out and hated it, but at least you tried something different. And that shows you have an open mind, and I love that part. And by the way, almost everyone is complicated.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my God, that's like the most true thing ever. Everyone is complicated. So there are things that you're not gonna like about people. There are gonna be things that you love about people. The question is, what do you choose to focus on? And do you just give up on someone because they have views that you don't agree with? Or do you engage in an exchange, maybe plant some seeds, maybe you don't, doesn't matter. But like having these conversations with people not only challenges you on your own perspective and keeps you sharper, which I found is definitely true, but also it makes you more informed about other perspectives. So you're not engaging in constant straw men, arguments.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it gives you a new experience and a new perspective. And the more you add to your perspective, the better off you are. All right, so Exhausted IT Dragon says, I hope this gets read because I want to spread the word and clear up misinformation about something that's been talked about a few times. I was born with autoimmune inflammation affecting my joints, along with IBS and severe reactive hypoglycemia. Every meal could leave me nearly unconscious, and constant inflammation caused by daily vertigo, exhaustion, and countless other issues. After years of struggling and reaching the point of giving up, I read that a compound called Tirzepatide, nice Santa, could help IBS. I realized it was the same medication sold as Zepbound/Mounjaro and decided to try it. Within 45 minutes of my first dose, my life changed. My IBS stopped, the vertigo disappeared, I could eat without passing out, my energy returned, and my hair even stopped falling out from malnutrition.
Wow.
I lost 20 pounds of inflammation in 3 weeks and have now lost over 80 pounds. So that's interesting, and I'm reading this blind. So this person had malnutrition and was overweight at the same time, right? Because of these conditions, and that could be true. And in fact, obviously here in this case, it was true. So they continue. GLP medications are often described as appetite suppressants, but that's only part of the story. They regulate insulin, glucose, and the endocrine system while reducing inflammation. Many people lose weight without major dietary changes because these medications improve how the body uses energy and stores fat. I've never experienced appetite suppression, and in fact, I eat more than I used to because food no longer makes me sick. I hope people stop viewing GLPs as a fad diet drugs. For many, they're lifelong medications that treat underlying metabolic disease. Weight loss is just one of the many life-changing benefits.
In fact,
wow.
It was my impression, I could be wrong, that GLPs were originally developed specifically for patients who have, insulin issues, diabetes, stuff like that. but doctors had started prescribing it off-label to people struggling with, obesity or whatever. And then later it became more and more accepted to use it for weight issues. So this is freaking awesome. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. And I don't really have strong negative or positive feelings about any prescription drug other than opioids, which people were lied to about when it came to how addictive they were. But medications are supposed to help people. The question is, do we have a healthcare system that encourages or incentivizes doctors to prescribe things appropriately? Are people being overprescribed? One of the things that does concern me is you see a lot of these med spas. So these are like the spas where they do like injections and like whatever beauty stuff. But now they're like offering prescriptions for these GLPs. And it's like, oh, you've got 10 pounds you wanna lose? And it's like, I don't think someone who just has 10 pounds to lose should be on these drugs. Personally, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm worried about this being abused. You get what I'm saying?
I do. So I have a couple of experiences that relate to that. Number one, I was denied insurance coverage of those drugs because they said I was too healthy.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you are healthy. Like, your labs always come in pretty
right. And no matter how overweight I was, they're like, nope, still too healthy. But it's also partly because insurance is full of crap, right? And then I got to a point where I had crossed a weight threshold that should give me the drug for sure. And they're like, well, we're just gonna ignore our rule and not give it to you. Okay,
God, insurance is the worst.
Oh, it's unbearable.
Yeah.
The number of times I have to go to a pharmacy just to get the drug that my doctor already prescribed is unreal. Oh, your doctor prescribed it, but he has to re-prescribe it. Why? No, we have to get authorization again from the insurance. Okay, now he does it. Oh, no, but now your pharmacist has to do it again. Oh, come on,
yeah,
right?
It's crazy.
So they're trying to wear you down so you don't get the drug. Now you might die or other terrible things might happen to you, but they're gonna save money every time someone gets frustrated and gives up, right? So that's why they learned from the airline industry. What was it? The misery index? Or,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, planned misery.
I forget the exact word,
yeah,
but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Right, so it's super frustrating. But anyways, I went on, got some kind of halfway deal and started. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely eat less. So I think for me, it definitely affects my appetite. But I think you might be right, because on the lowest dose, I lost 30 to 35 pounds, and that's not supposed to be that normal. And so what that says to me is, yeah, I think it's having a metabolic effect as well. And I've talked to the nutritionist, to my general practitioner, doctor, etc., and everybody has slightly different things they say about whether it affects your metabolism or not.
Because everyone's different, right? So drugs affect people differently.
Totally. My sister, by the way, it hasn't budged her. It hasn't affected her at all. So everybody's different. You're totally right. Okay, so we'll take more of your comments on Operation Joy as we go along. And let me read some that came in now, and then I'll go back to the Joy board. That's a thing I just made up. Progressive veteran says, Operation Joy, me and my wife took our kids fishing and camping for the first time ever, and they loved it. And one of my most proud moments was my youngest was practicing fishing for about an hour and learned to cast well. They both like campfire and s'mores, #campingdad.
Oh, okay. Fun, so fun.
Yeah.
Can you be my dad? That sounds fun. My dad would be like, the camping? I bought house. You sleep in house. Why you sleep outside? He would not understand it. He's like, this is crazy.
100%.
Yeah.
So people who grew up poor are much more reluctant to go camping.
100%.
My dad's the same. My dad's like, yeah, I used to have to stay in a tent when it was like the height of the farming season. And the bugs and the heat, it was miserable. You want me to go backwards to stay in a tent in the middle of the fields?
In the wilderness?
Yeah, he's like,
yeah, I jump in it.
Yeah, my mom, on the other hand, even though she grew up in the same small southeastern Turkey town, was among the wealthier families in that town, right? She was from one of those. and they had a house that they would go in the fields, right? And they would sleep on top of the roof.
You see that? Rich people love camping. They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And
they
my
want
mom
something
has
different.
Yeah, my mom has super fond memories of that, and my dad has super bitter memories of staying out because of course it matters. But anyways, we're all lucky. We're relatively okay these days, and so my wife got us into camping, and we have a camper van and all that. And
is that camping though?
I mean, I think it counts. It's called a camper van.
It's glamping.
Right?
It's glamping.
Yeah, no, it's not that glamping.
Right?
Glamping is like at Murat's wedding, we did a camping wedding because they love. He's my younger nephew, right? And they love camping, and so it was a perfect theme. And there they had like souped up campers. Blanking on all the right words here. And so they had air conditioning.
RVs?
It's not really, it's like, it looks like an RV, but it's stationary. Anyways, that was glamping. Okay,
all right, okay.
So our camper van's normal. And so you squish together and etc.
I'm gonna be honest, the last time I went camping was in 2024. The time that I had gone camping prior to that was like in 2016 when I freaking loved it. By the time 2024 Anna hit, I thought I loved camping, like real camping. Like you just have a tent, you got to go off into a field to do your business, like that kind of stuff. No, not for me anymore.
No,
not
totally.
Not for me anymore.
Yeah, it gets to the point. No, we also did the tent thing. I only did it once, and once was enough. I'm like, no, I'm too old for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I got to roll out of the tent, go down the hill with nah.
Christian wanted to be cute, so he put an air mattress in the back of his pickup truck. And he's like, instead of sleeping in the tent, we can sleep in the back of the pickup truck. Except the mattress ended up having a hole in it, and there was no soft surface to sleep on. So I was not happy. So just leave it there.
Yeah, no, you're needlessly putting yourself through some pain. But it's not needless because if you do the fun things involved, then it's awesome, right? And so the one thing now that you mention it, that I regret that I haven't done enough with the kids is fishing. I remember when my best friend's dad would take us fishing, and God, those were some of my best memories. And then my uncle would take us fishing, and both my best friend's dad and my uncle were excellent at it for whatever reason. And I remember being like a doe-eyed kid looking at them like, how do they catch all that fish?
Yeah.
And then when you catch your own, oh my God, you feel so good. You feel so good. And we actually ate the fish back in the day, right? So anyways, I love that story. Great. Another radical dragon said, happy birthday, Anna. I'm so happy you were born. Kudos to your parents. Okay, nice shout out for the Kasparian parents. All right, and Trump lawyer said, I'm a 10-year TYT member because I can't stand injustice either.
Oh, I love you.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, a lot of course, tons and tons of our members can't stand it. That's why they're here. All right, so now let's go back to tyt.com/joy. Evan Selnikovich writes in, living in Kiev has been an incredible blessing. That's interesting. As a Navy vet, it's wonderful to see people so committed to the idea of freedom and democracy. My neighbors could barely wait for the weather to improve to start barbecuing together in the common areas. The sense of community, neighborly attitudes, welcoming hospitality, it's beautiful and it brings me joy. Glory to Ukraine and glory to her heroes. Also, Jenk's comedy bits and Anna's laughter. Love it.
I love that.
Oh, Evan, you won me over big time at the end there. How much do I love you, brother? But back to the relevant part. Yeah, obviously conflict and more importantly, stressful times, things that strain you, bring a community together. And so, I have this idea that sometimes a politician will pop up with a similar idea, which is that we should do, which I said it once or twice and Anna always objects to, but let's see if you still object to it,
right,
okay?
Go ahead.
So mandatory service for 1 year after you graduate from high school, either military, Peace Corps, or AmeriCorps. That's like, AmeriCorps is like teaching or volunteering inside America. So you can choose any of the three, but you have to do one for a whole year. Why? Because I want to bring the country back together again. One of the things that made us a country was unfortunately, World War I and World War II, where kids from the Bronx and Kansas and California and Wyoming and Hawaii all got together and they were in a trench. Now, I don't want to repeat that, right? But it bonded them as a nation. It bonded them as a community and made them one. And so we don't have that anymore. And we're all in our little enclaves and now playing video games and watching YouTube videos and shorts and hopefully us a little bit. But anyway, but overall, we're so isolated, and it also hurts our sense of community.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think these days?
I don't trust our government, so no, under no circumstance. Like, are you kidding me? You think they won't change the rules to make it so you have to serve in the military as we fight more and more wars on behalf of our special ally? I don't trust our government. That's the problem. I don't trust our government. Like, there needs to be some significant changes.
No, that's super fair.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming a government that would pass that law is a government that's already been cleaned up. Right, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Under this current government, I'd be a little worried that it gets veered and redirected towards a draft for Israel's wars. But
look at what our government's doing right now with those flock cameras. No, I don't know, man. I'm starting to think libertarians have a point when it comes to government.
No. It's just. It's too easy an answer, and things are never in the extremes. Things are never binary, almost never binary.
I agree, but
no, what you're frustrated by is the fact that our government doesn't represent us. You're not frustrated by government, you're frustrated by a government that screws over its own people.
They treat their own people as if they're the enemy, Cenk.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why we fight against it every day.
I hate them. I hate our government.
No, that's super fair. But you don't hate the concept of government. We need government, that's obvious.
Limited.
Do we hate the Norwegian government? No, the Norwegian government seems lovely, right? And so.
Even in the context of California, right? I'm supposed to love this utopian deep blue state. These politicians can't get enough of the regulations that are destroying the state. And what I mean by that are like zoning regulations that prevent development of housing that we so desperately need. Like they hate us. They hate us.
No,
they
but
tell us
Anna,
every day.
So California or America these days, it doesn't really matter because we all know what the problem is. It's money in politics. So once you legalize bribery, whether it's a blue state or a red state or the national government, they're only going to serve their donors.
I just want them to leave me alone.
Yeah, that's the problem.
How about stop taking my money and leave me alone? And by the way, when I say that, it's not because I don't agree with the social programs that we've talked about for years and years and years on this show. They don't use the money for the social programs. They keep taking more and more and more and more. And what do they do with it? They cut $1 trillion from Medicaid. Like, how are people not furious about this crap? Anyway,
well,
sorry, Operation Joy.
But
Very
we
happy
are
right now.
we are furious about it. But why does it seem like we're not furious about it? Because legacy media never covers people's fury about the Medicare cuts. And they say, oh, our government is wonderful and we should keep up the status quo. So look,
I want to learn about the offshore tax havens. How come I don't know about them? Where do I find them? Seriously though, I asked my accountant person, and she just chuckled like you did.
Because you're not rich enough to have an offshore tax haven.
Why not?
Because I don't know. Because it probably costs enough money to set it up that you need millions of dollars to benefit from it, and we just don't have that kind. Look,
our money is helping to fund the slaughter of innocents across the globe, but especially in the Middle East. But okay.
Okay, so the libertarians are weirdly not excited about taking money out of politics, and I've always been curious about that. Right? I mean, is
that true?
I think so. A couple of libertarians I talked to were like, whoa, I don't know about taking money out of politics. And their ostensible reason is freedom, that billionaire has a freedom to buy our government, that a foreign government has a freedom to buy our government. Now they would say probably not about foreign government, but that is the current reality, right? Corporations have the freedom to buy our government. But I now realize, oh, wait a minute. I'm not saying this is an actual plot, but it is convenient for the libertarians because once you have money in politics, the government becomes disgusting and totally corrupt. So then the libertarians go, see, I told you the government is bad.
I think.
Yeah, it's bad if you allow illegalized bribery.
Look, I'm not a libertarian, okay? I'm just saying I'm starting to feel a little bit sympathetic for their ire toward government, okay? But putting that aside, there are gradations in libertarian thought, right? There are people who are super goofy and they're like, we shouldn't even have driver's licenses, which I think is crazy, you know?
Well, look, we think it's crazy. On the other hand, the side that says we shouldn't have any checks for guns is basically one. That's way crazier.
You know what I've come to realize? The people who are trying to disarm you are not your friends.
Okay, so that's another thing. But yeah, in terms of the libertarians, of course there's gradations, and Dave Smith's a libertarian and he's awesome on issues of war.
Not great with Social Security.
No.
Right, but
great on American sovereignty. And so, I mean, since there's no like propaganda against Dave Smith, as opposed to Tucker Carlson, MTG, where there's legitimate complaints plus layered on top propaganda, right? But Dave Smith has been kind of left alone in that.
I mean, Ben Shapiro has the biggest hate boner for that guy. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's not like dispersed wide enough for people to know it.
Fair.
But yes, and of course the reason that Ben Shapiro hates Dave Smith is because he can't call him an anti-Semite. And Dave makes indisputable points about how terrible the Israeli government is. And Ben Shapiro doesn't care about Jewish people, he only cares about Israel.
True.
So he's like, Dave Smith, I want to call him an anti-Semite so bad, but he's ruining our trick on behalf of Israel, right? So anyways, but yes, when the government takes your money, steals your money, and gives it to their donors, you get a lot more libertarians, right? So Softball Dragon, last one here, says, today my son was driving to work and somehow hit a curb and blew out a tire. He was able to safely park the car in a parking lot and find alternate transportation to work. This was not the joy part. My daughter and I were out running errands and we went to put on the spare tire. We were not able to get the lugs off the damaged wheel. We made a trip to Home Depot to get a pipe to extend the length of the wrench to loosen the lugs. We were successful changing the tire and my daughter did all the work. She did a great job. Super proud of her for offering to help and doing almost all the work herself.
Hell yeah, women get it done.
Okay, so first off, I was wondering when the joy was gonna come in. Because I'm like, man, this sounds miserable so far. But you totally nailed it, because you're right. When my kids volunteer to do anything that's work related, I'm like, yes, right? So they're good kids, but like, it is not easy to get them to do their chores. And so to change a tire like that, to take the initiative to do all of it, etc. Man, I would be so proud of my daughter. So I'm 100% with you.
Totally.
It's a beautiful moment. Okay.
I'm impressed, I really am.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I like to do those types of things myself as well, but I've never found myself in a position where I have to change a tire, so I've never done it. I don't know if I'd know how to do it. Maybe I need to learn.
One of the moments in my life where people were most shocked by me was when I was in either senior high school or freshman year of college. And I was going with my friends somewhere and we got a flat tire and I was like, I got this.
No way.
And I changed the tire.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Just like I don't believe that you used to hang drywall. There's no way. You don't know how to hang drywall.
I do.
That's so impressive.
Okay.
Jeez.
So my friends were looking at me like this, like.
I would too. Yeah, I would too.
That jank changing a tire.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was one time when Jank broke his side view mirror and like was asking JR and Jesus like the most basic questions ever. And at that time I'm like 20 years old and I knew more about getting that repaired than he did. And I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing at all. I mean, he's good with the news, so I trust him with that. But everything else, cut it out.
You know what I eventually did is I screwed in the rear view mirror to the side. I was like,
yep.
Okay, you know what? It totally worked. That car is still somewhere being driven by a Wolfpack volunteer.
That's amazing.
Okay, and you know why I did that instead of paying for the repair? Because I had no money, and so that's how you fix things when you don't have any money. And I we had a flat tire before, and I had helped to change it. That's why I knew how to change the tire, and I couldn't wait to show off anyway. And so that's why. Anyway, that was a huge moment of joy for me too, because I've never seen people more shocked in my life. Anyways, much love, guys. We're out of time. Michael and I are coming back for Old School. That's just for members. So that's at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So all the members come back for that, and we read your comments and have a ton of fun. So if you're not a member, good reason to join. So hit the join button below on YouTube or tyt.com/join.
Bye-bye.